Hello and welcome everybody to our Sage Intacct demonstration. I am Neil Grabarnik, our Sage Intacct sales consultant, along with Matthew Frampton, who is our solutions consultant, who will be taking you through the weekly demo today. A quick overview for today, about 5 minutes from me and 40 minutes from Matthew, and then some time for your questions. Before we move to the demo, just a little information about Vision 33. Selecting the right software is important, but the right partner is the real difference maker for your business. A few things Vision 33 brings to the table: extensive support and industry experience. We have many longtime customers who rely on our partnership to support their business, and we're a leader in the Sage community. We're a Platinum Sage partner and a preferred implementation partner for Sage Intacct. Implementation is just the beginning of your journey. Vision 33 is here for long-term support and customer care. Ultimately, it's our consistency, reliability, focus on excellent customer experiences, and leveraging our knowledge to help you transform accounting frustrations into success and strategic growth. And like Sage, Vision 33 is a global company, but we like to say we operate as a small business. Our main operations are in the US, Canada, and the UK, founded in Newfoundland, and we have certified consultants to serve you locally coast to coast. Here are some of our excellent customers running Sage Intacct. They come from all over the spectrum, including nonprofit, SaaS and technology, professional services, and more. And I'm sure most of you have done your initial research on Sage Intacct, but here are a few highlights. As you can see, Sage Intacct supports several industries and offers industry-specific functionality. Vision 33's biggest customer footprint is nonprofit, where we have approximately 35% of our client base. Building expertise in these verticals really helps us to guide our customers down the right path with their implementation, including your sector's best practices for reporting. And here's a quick snapshot of Sage's global reach. There's millions of customers worldwide. And here's another snapshot that shows Sage Intacct's global reach, serving customers in 80 plus countries in 130 plus functional currencies. And if you're interested in the underlying numbers, Sage Intacct is as secure as it gets. You no longer need to worry about backups, downtime, and constant costly upgrades. It just works all the time. And Sage Intacct isn't a solution that was retrofitted for the cloud. It's a cloud native solution from its first line of code. It's an affordable, easy to use solution for finance teams that need only specialized finance tools. It's also a modular solution, which means you pay only for what you need now and can add more functionality when you need it. We call Sage Intacct a best of breed solution, and its open API makes it easy to seamlessly integrate with other best of breed solutions. And for integration, has what's called the Sage Intacct Marketplace, filled with pre-built integrations to other best of breed solutions for CRM, e-commerce, and so much more. And if the solution you want to integrate isn't on the Sage Intacct Marketplace, Vision 33 can build the integration for you with Saltbox, which is our exclusive cloud-based integration solution built by our automation and integration experts. And just a final word about Sage Intacct's embedded AI. While it's not built into our demo environment just yet, we want to introduce you to Sage Copilot. Basically, Sage Copilot is like getting a very smart productivity assistant. It gives you answers you can trust and tools for a smoother, faster month-end close. So be sure to ask your consultant about Sage Copilot when they follow up with you. So that's it for me, and now I'll turn it over to Matthew for the demo. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Neil. All right. Hello, everyone. As Neil mentioned, my name is Matthew. I'm going to walk us through our brief Intacct demo today. I'm just going to remind everybody that Intacct is a native cloud environment. So that means you can access it anywhere, anytime, from any device. You're no longer restricted to a computer at your office or a particular machine at home. You can pick up an iPad at home and log into Intacct. You can be in a Starbucks having a coffee, at the airport waiting for a flight. If you have any device that can access the internet and internet connection and you remember your credentials, you can log into Intacct and view your data and go about your normal work. Updates with that If you're currently dealing with on-prem servers, you have on-prem server costs, you have on-prem server maintenance, server security, server upgrades, all that's going to go away. So that's just immediate cost savings. Next would be updates to the solution. So I know with older solutions, when an update is released for that solution, part of the responsibility is passed onto your shoulders. You have to install the update, confirm the update, wait for it to finish. If it doesn't go so smoothly, you're on the phone with support. And we even have some clients that hire consultants to come in and install updates. They're generally specific updates like tax updates and so on. But again, all that will go away. Intacct updates automatically 4 times per year, so once per quarter. It's on a very tight schedule, and it's a very seamless update with zero input from you. You don't have to push a button, you don't have to confirm anything. You log out on Friday. When you log in the following Monday, the update is in your solution. It's such a seamless solution that if it weren't for my home screen here that tells me release one is here, you might not even notice it happened unless you went into some configuration screens and noticed some new functionalities that you could turn on or off. It doesn't make the solution slow or unavailable. Very rarely comes with any bugs or any major bugs. So nice and simple. If you are interested in what is changing with the most recent release, you can click on the release notes link. That will bring you into a very nice table of contents. There is a nice highlights video here that is generally between 10 and 20 minutes long. So not too long of a video because too long of a video, you'll just fall asleep. So I like to sit down with a coffee, watch this video, make notes of the functionalities that interest me the most, or I think I can leverage the most for my ongoing projects, or circle back to my prior projects, prior clients, and say, hey, this functionality is out now. I think you could leverage it. And after I watch the video and make some notes, I'll come over and drill into the reading material. So under the financials tab is where you're going to find the bulk of the update. And you can see from how my list expanded here that it's not a small update by any means. We've had changes in AP, and AP goes down a nice ways here. We have changes in AR. We've also got changes to cash management, contracts, employee expenses, fixed asset management, the general ledger module, the inventory module, the order entry module, and so on. So these are normally quite substantial updates that do come with some value-adding functionality. So great to know that that's just going to happen automatically for you. Up top, we do have the release calendar. As I mentioned a moment ago, these releases are on a very tight schedule. Release 1 did come on the 13th of February. Release 2 will come on the 8th of May, the 7th of August, and the 6th of November. They do not miss these dates. They are in stone. They are super hard targets for Sage. That is when the update will occur. About a week before each update, is comes for general release. So, the 1st of May, the 30th of September, you will actually be able to come to the screen that I'm on right now, not the release calendar. Well, you could, but this screen right here, they might not have the video ready yet, but there will be notes here about what is going to come with that most recent update. So you can get like a week to 10 days of a bit of a head start on that release. So just nice to know that you're working on a flagship program for a company that is constantly being updated and constantly improved upon. So it should stay relevant for quite some time. With that stuff out of the way, let's look at some actual functionality. So Intacct does a lot of things really, really well. It has your core accounting modules, general ledger, accounts payable, a more powerful AP module called the purchasing module if you want like a procurement workflow, accounts receivable, order entry, budget management, cash management, financial reporting, dashboard, taxes. Everything above taxes is out of the box functionality, except for consolidations. Apologies. Now everything above taxes is an out of the box module. Being a modular system, if you don't need inventory control, it's not in your system and you don't pay for it. If you don't need fixed asset management, it's not in your system and you don't pay for it. But at any time you do need it, you can add it and we can come back and install it and configure it and help you get it up and running. So a nice modular system where you only see what you need and you only pay for what you need. So on top of the core accounting modules that you see here that Intacct does really well, they do more advanced functionalities really well as well. So just the items that I just spoke about, and we'll touch on these a little bit later, but when we're not going to see a whole lot of these items because there's simply not enough time. But on top of all of those things, where Intacct really shines, in my opinion, is the financial reporting capabilities. It's not just the reports that you can build, it's how easy it is to build those reports, how easy it is to modify those reports to isolate data that you want to isolate that helps drive your decision making, the ability to put those reports on the dashboards and calculate KPIs directly in the system. And I could go on forever about the reports and why they stand out. The backbone of that financial reporting, what makes it so easy, comes from what we call dimensions in Intacct. So out of the box, everybody gets access to the entity and location dimension. They're linked together, unlike any other two dimensions in the system, and I'll highlight that in a moment. You'll get access to the class dimension. So in my system, I've actually renamed the class dimension to read as funds, but I can go change that back very quickly with a couple of clicks if I want to, and I will because fund is it was named fund for a very specific demo. As I refresh my screen here, we should see the word fund change back into class all throughout my system. I'm just going to let it load in here. So now if I hit my drop down, we will see that it's gone back to class. So I can make the dimensions read however you want them to read. And that leads me into my next point is that, people always ask me, well, what is a class, right? Like we don't have classes. We don't record anything by class. Department, everybody gets. But it's essentially whatever you want it to be. We can rename this to read and be labeled as whatever you need it to be. Think of every dimension as a bucket of reporting. So you're going to code transactions to a general ledger account plus a combination of dimensions, and they're all individual buckets of reporting. Every combination of GL account plus any number of dimensions is essentially an individual bucket that you can use for reporting. But it's also very easy to combine those buckets together and so on. So out of the box, like I said, you'll get the entity location dimension, you'll get the class dimension, you'll get the department dimension, you'll get the employee dimension, but you don't really repurpose the employee dimension. Customer and vendor are dimensions, but again, you're not really going to repurpose those. And you will also get access to the item dimension. So even if you're not an inventory company, you still get the item dimension. We just create non-inventory items, and you're still able to track how much of each item you have purchased, how much of each item you have sold, if that's something you're interested in doing. So the way the dimensions work and the advantages that they bring, if you think of a segmented chart of accounts, where if you had in a segmented chart of accounts, you had 10 GL accounts that you wanted to be able to track the activity across your 5 separate departments, like I have in my system here. You would actually end up with 50 GL accounts, right? Like GL account 1-100, GL account 1-200, GL account 1-300, 400, 500, move on to GL account 2. That's painful enough as it is, and 10 is a very, very, very low sample size. Like if you're reporting by dimensions, it's more likely more than 10 GL accounts. And then every time you want to make a new GL account, you're not making one new GL account, you're making 5 new GL accounts because you need that GL account plus every department. In Intact, that stops. We don't have any sub accounts, we don't have a segmented chart of accounts. Anything that was previously a sub account on your chart of accounts GL number is going to come off of that GL account number and it's going to come into its own standalone list. So how they kind of work is when I'm coding a transaction, say I'm coding, doesn't matter, an accounts payable bill, anything that hits your books, every single transaction that hits your books, you can tag a combination of GL account plus any number of dimensions that you have deemed relevant to that transaction. So if I were in here recording some software and licenses expense, and I said part of it was for my sales department, $250. The next was for my services department, we'll say it's 650, and the next is for my marketing. And I'm typing marketing this time instead of using my drop down just so you can see how the functionality works. You don't have to type 400. You can just start typing marketing. Same thing with your GL accounts, right? Like if I come over here and start typing MA, I'll get marketing and advertising. Control Z works in here for undo. I don't know if you noticed. Let me take away that there. So it's nice little keyboard shortcuts. And if I enter this in now at 580. So I'm not going to post this transaction. I'm just going to talk to it a little bit. If I were to post this transaction, and I wanted to go run an analysis on my software and licenses GL account, I could run a full analysis and I would be able to see the full 1480 plus any other information that's already in that GL account. If I wanted to do this analysis and I wanted to isolate my marketing department, I could just see the 580 alone. I could just see the 650 alone for services. I could just see the 250 alone for sales. If I wanted to see marketing and sales put together, I could do that. I could run a report that says grab all of the information tagged to these GL accounts for just these two departments. And I would end up with the $830. If I were tagging more dimensions in here, I could run my statement for service line 300 and I would get all of the information because all three lines are tagged to 300. But I could also run my analysis and say, I want to run it for class 300, but only things that are tagged to the services department as well. And then I would only get to 650. Becomes much more relevant when you have a lot more data, not just one transaction, because, we've already gotten to the 650 in one way. But that's kind of the leverage of them. So people kind of think that because you're losing the sub account, you're losing the ability to be able to report individually on the combination of that GL account plus your sub accounts, and it couldn't be any further from the truth. You're getting all the same functionality as if this were an individual GL account, plus more flexibility and making your life easier in other ways across the system. So let's take a look at how that kind of works. If I wanted to come in here at any point in time in a segmented chart of accounts, and I wanted to run an analysis on one of my departments. And again, in a segmented chart of accounts, you have specific GL accounts that have the department sub account on it, and they probably don't run in sequence of one another, right? Because it's probably like GL account 4000-100, 4000-200, 4000-300. And then you move on to like 4001 or 4005-1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So to run an analysis, a GL detail on that department, you would have to come in here and manually pick like GL account 4000-100 and then 4001-100. When in Intact, I can come in and say, I want to run an analysis on all my P&L accounts, but I just want to run it for my admin department. I don't have to worry about selecting a big pile of GL accounts. I can just say, just show me for my admin department. And I can click on view, and here it is. You can see that it only pulled out information relevant to my admin department. If I didn't want to isolate a department, I don't have to. I can just leave my department filter blank, and then I'm going to get a full GL detail report. But the way that Intacct is built, even though I'm running it for all of my different departments, on the line level of every transaction, I will still be able to see where all the revenue and expenses were tagged to. Our revenue is mostly tagged to services and sales, which makes a lot of sense. Admin, marketing, and IT are not really revenue generating type departments. But as we get down into some OpEx categories here, I'll just scroll down all the way. You can see that even though I'm not isolating a department, I can see at the expense level for every single line which department was tagged. So you could even still do some analysis here. It's just the information is just right in front of your face. So that's a little brief message there about the GL detail report. Now, the financial reporting is no different. If I were running a financial report, a P&L, a balance sheet, most companies don't use dimensions across their balance sheet. It is mostly P&L. Not for profits, sometimes will use the dimensions across their balance sheet. But if I run this P&L summary, I like to run this version of the report first. I am running it for December of 2019. Okay, I just want to highlight that because I configured the columns on this report. So when it runs, we will see the columns that I've configured. I have my current month, which is December of 2019. I've chosen to show my prior month. I've then chosen to show a month over month difference, and I've put in some conditional highlighting, which is really easy to do. And then we've got a full year to date column here. Now, these columns are a little dynamic, right? Where it's based off of, it is a reporting period, but it's based off the as of date that I enter. So if I run the report and I say, I want to see this report as of October 31st of 2019, you can see my columns are going to change where my current month will be October, my prior month is going to be September, and my year to date is only going to be January to October. So they are a little bit dynamic. I just want to highlight that. They are fully drillable, right? If I click on a dollar amount, that will bring me to a GL detail report from my GL detail report. If I click on a dollar value, that will bring me back to a source transaction, which in this case is an invoice record. So we will get back to the invoice record. We'll just let it load in so you see the drill down work. So that brought me back to my invoice record quite quickly. Now, when it comes to the dimensions and how they're leveraged for financial reports, maybe after looking at one of these reports, you say, wonderful, right? This gave me the information I wanted for what I was doing right now. But now I really want to see a P&L broken out across my departments. Intacct makes that so easy to do. You'll have a separate report ready to go that already has it done. So I will show you that report first. Just click here and click OK. And now all of a sudden we've got a P&L across our different departments. Every department listed out from left to right. We still have a total to the far right. You will notice a no department here. So these transactions got entered and left the department dimension blank on the line level. This happened before we have the controls that we have now. We can stop this from happening, so you don't have to worry about this at all. It's a very simple checkbox. And again, fully drillable, but filtered drill downs. So if I drill into my services revenue here on other revenue, I'm not going to get a full GL detail report. I am just going to get for my services department. So focused drill downs as well, which is really nice. So here we have a departmental P&L, and we can do this with any dimension in the system with ease. It's super easy to do. That's going to lead me into my next point, because the question I always get on live demos is you'll get a comment that's, well, that's great, Matthew. Like, it's great that the system can do it, and it's great you had it set up to show us, but how hard is that to do? Because, you know, if it's that difficult, does it have that much value? The answer is, I don't think it could be any easier. So this profit and loss summary, I'm gonna click edit on it just to kind of show you how it happens. I come to my column section. Now, before I do this, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. I'll preview this report that I'm on right now, and you'll notice this is the first report that we looked at. So to get my year to date broken out by department, all I would have done was duplicate the report that I'm on right now and give it a different name. And then I would have removed these three columns, columns 2, 3, and 4. And then all you have to do is come to the column that you want expanded by a dimension and click on expand by and say expand by my departments. And I click set. And I can preview this report right on the spot. And now you'll notice that my year-to-date column is broken out by my departments, right? So you can tell that all I did to create the other report was duplicate it and remove these columns and expand this one. So that's how easy it is to do. And as I said, you can do it by any dimension that you're using in your system, locations, classes, customers, vendors, and you can do multiple dimensions. You can also do time periods, right? So if you wanted to see your year to date as kind of a trailing to the start of your year, I can just change it to time periods and months. And now all of a sudden I get, my current month, my prior month, and the comparison, but then I'm getting January, February, March. I'm getting, basically a full expanded P&L. Super easy to do. If you wanted to get into doing more analysis, I'll take my expand by off here. Maybe you want to run, and I won't even use this report, actually, I'll use my other report. Maybe you want to run your profit and loss by department, but you're really interested in looking at the share of revenue across your customers and the share of expenses across your vendors. So I could take this report by department. We've already got the columns expanding by department, so I'm not going to expand there, but I can also come to my rows and say, when we get to our revenues, I really want to see across my revenues which customers are really driving my revenue up. And when we go looking at my operating expenses, I'd really like to see which vendors are driving my expenses up. I've actually got to do this. I would actually need to expand this out. But what I can do is I'll just do it on a couple of here. I'll only do the top two here, just for the sake of time. And I can preview that report. And it's going to take a couple extra seconds to run because I'm breaking it out by many different things now. But when it loads in, now all of a sudden I'm seeing my revenue or my customers. I can see which customers were driving my revenue in each different category. When I get down into my expenses, unfortunately, I'm dealing with a lot of historical data, so most of it was just imported. So there's no vendors tagged on these line levels. But you kind of get the idea how easy it is to expand this kind of stuff out, right? And get to the level of information you're looking for. And the other great thing you can do with the reports is you can filter them, just like I filtered the GL detail report. So when I was running my year to date by department, I seen some $0 rows, right? I seen some zeros because while it was zero in one of my departments, it's not zero in the others, so it has to show. But if I wanted to run this statement just for my IT department or just for my marketing department, because I know they don't have revenue and I want to use it as an expense statement, when I'm running the report, all I have to do is choose that department from my drop down. So I can say just for my marketing department. And then I don't get any zeros. I get a nice concise report just for my marketing department. If I want to run it for multiple departments, because I'm doing analysis on departments 100 and 300, I can have a group ready to go called 100, 300. And when I run it now, I get my sales and my admin departments. So just a wide array of flexibility with the reporting here and how you can view the data, isolate the data, set it up to really meet your reporting needs. Don't pay too much attention to the structure of the P&L here with like the revenue subscriptions and the revenue other. This is an out of the box report. We can put whatever revenue headers and subheaders and gross profit or gross margin or EBITDA, like whatever you need. We can put EBITDA before your taxes and depreciation and show EBITDA and then show net income. So we can make the statement look however you need it to look, just an out of the box format that we're looking at here. Building on top of the financial reports is the dashboard functionality. So the dashboard functionality out of Intacct is fantastic. You can have as many dashboards in your system as you want or need. So you see in my system, I have, I don't know, at least 30 or 40 throughout my different categories here. There's no additional charge. You can create as many dashboards as you like. Just yours, take it and run with it. Each dashboard on an individual level. So the AP manager, the AR manager, CFO global view, controller, contract forecast, customer view. Each individual dashboard allows you to determine who can and cannot view that dashboard. So you don't have to worry about putting stuff on a dashboard that someone shouldn't be able to see. You can just hide the dashboard from them. So we take a look at a CFO dashboard to start. We're going to get what Sage is called a company performance graph at the top of the screen here. When it loads in, a little spoiler alert, it is just a P&L in line graph form, but it's nice. It's nice to get your P&L in a line graph. You can see your trend really easy here. The top line is our revenue, the bottom line in blue is our expenses, and the middle line in orange is our net income. Down below that line graph, we have some performance indicators that are still trying to load in. This is extremely slow for Intacct, by the way. It is very windy where I live today, and this is a demo environment. So just this speed is very strange. So we have some performance indicators here. We've got our services revenue compared against our budget. We've got our total revenue compared against the prior month. We've got our direct labor costs versus the prior month, our chargeability rate, our operating expenses versus budget, and our operating margin. We're showing percent differences here. If we scroll down a little bit to see the next set of performance indicators, you'll see that we're showing the dollar value difference this time, and we're also showing like 3 months prior and then budget. You can pick and choose what your comparative time frame is. You can also pick and choose of whether you see like a happy face or a sad face or a green flag or a red flag or a thumbs up, thumbs down. Most people stick with the arrows just for professionalism, but we threw a couple happy faces in here just to show the flexibility. Down below the first set of performance indicators, we've got more graphs. We've got a horizontally stacked bar graph, a vertically stacked bar graph. We've got a pie graph. We've got more graphs, more reports, more graphs. These dashboards are filterable by your dimensions, just like the financial reporting, just like the GL detail report. That's one great thing about them. The next great thing about them is the underlying data is behind them all, and that does a couple of things for you. First of all, if you want to see the underlying data, there's a show data button on all of your different graphs that immediately just pops out the financial dollar values. So I can do that on all of my graphs here with a click. I accidentally drilled into one of them. So you can do that with all your graphs. That's nice. It's just nice to be able to see that data. But the best part about these graphs is since they are derived from financial reports, they do maintain drill down functionality. So if I hover over my revenue for September of 2019, I can see that it's 1.301 million. But if I want to see the breakdown of that 1.3 million, I can click on that revenue dot. That will open up the revenue portion of my P&L, and then I can continue to drill backwards from here. What I like about the drill downs from the dashboard is they don't take me away from my dashboard. Each of my drill downs popped open a new window. So I closed my two windows. I'm still right here on my dashboard. If I click on an expense dot on my graph, it's going to open up the expenses portion of my P&L. And I think everybody can put it together what'll happen if I click on a net income dot. It'll open up my full P&L. That's one example of a dashboard. We'll just take one other look at another dashboard very quickly. So this one's, say it's built for the controller. It's just going to be structured a little bit different. It's not going to have as many graphs on it, I don't believe. I think it just has some financial reports and some performance indicators at the top. Different performance indicators for different key metrics for this individual. And then we've got a P&L versus budget. Here we're showing like remaining budget and forecast to the end of the year and so on. We've got a listing of checklists of things that need to be completed. We've got a closed through summary here. We've got some timesheets that require approval. I mean, the general rule is if the information is in the system, there's a way to put it on your dashboard. So, if you want to take something from its default screen and put it on a dashboard so you don't have to do that navigation to see that information, generally it's able to happen. So the dashboard functionality, really strong and really favored by a lot of clients using Intacct. Moving away from financial reporting and dashboards. One thing that Intact does really well above a lot of others is manage companies that have multiple operating entities under the same corporate umbrella. So if you have multiple entities, right now, you most likely have multiple instances of your solution. So if you're doing work in one of your companies and then you want to go do work in another one of your companies, it means you have to log out and log back in. And that, doesn't really take that long, but it kind of is annoying. I've been there, I've had to do it. In Intact, all of your entities are under the same login. So the company that I'm working in for this demo has 7 operating entities in it. They're named as countries, but they are meant to represent individual operating entities with their own tax IDs that file their own financial statements. Again, just like the dashboards, you can tell the system which entities each user is allowed to work in and see and do work for. So, like if my user were restricted to the UK company and the Australia company, when I logged in, I wouldn't even see 100, 200, 300, 400, or 700 here. I would only see 500 and 600. So it comes with like natural restrictions like that. But if I was working in USA Company 1 and I say, oh, I found an AP transaction for US Company 2 in my USA Company 1 stack. You don't have to put it to the side because you have to log out and log back in. You can just click your drop down here, say USA Company 2. Not only will that pop open USA Company 2 for you, it will pop open USA Company 2 to the screen that you were on in the prior company. So it's going to put me in the AP bill entry screen with that click. So now I could enter my bill for USA Company 2 and then click to the next one. Oh, we're back to USA Company 1. Well, it's open in my other tab. I can just jump over here with ease. It's really, really convenient for that. On top of that, if you are working for this type of organization and you happen to also have entities that operate in different currencies. Intact handles that beautifully as well. So in my system right now, my Australian company, it does report and record transactions in the Australian dollar, Canada in the Canadian dollar, South Africa in the South African rand, the US companies in the US dollar, and the UK kingdom in GBP. So you see my org structure here. And then under each individual entity, which is in this light green color, you can have sublocations. So that kind of comes back to the very start of my demo where I was talking about the dimensions available out of the system. And I said the location and the entity dimension were locked together, unlike any other dimension. So to highlight that while we're here, if I'm in USA Company 1, I can enter a transaction to any department as long as that's the way I have it set up, right? That's available by default. They're available across all of my different entities. But the locations that we have here in blue, they do have a one-to-one relationship with an entity. So if I'm in USA Company 1, I can see under my location Colorado, Florida, and New York because they're sub-locations of that entity. But I cannot see location 1, location 2. I cannot see Newfoundland, Ontario, Quebec, or Corner Brook or St. John's. But if I were in the Canadian company, I would see all of these 5, but none of the rest, obviously. So that's kind of how the location dimension is different. So each of these companies are reporting in their own functional currency. They can all process multi-currency transactions with ease. So like if I go into the US company, I can put a transaction in Canadian dollars or GBP or South African rand or the Chinese yen. Just because you don't see it here doesn't mean it's not available as a transaction currency. The system will do things like revalue any open transactions at month end. And like when you record payment or receive payment for a foreign currency transaction, it will automatically look at the fluctuation of the exchange rate between the date entry of the bill or the posting date of the bill and the payment date and automatically calculate the realized FX gain or loss for you. So it handles all of that really great. You do not have to import exchange rates into Intacct. So you see if I'm entering AP and I choose a vendor of, I know Consulting Grid is in Canada, switches to Canadian dollars. You see the exchange rate date is today, and there is an exchange rate here. I did not load exchange rates into Intacct. I don't have to. I don't have time to. This happens automatically, and they are sourced from Oanda, just so everybody is aware if this is piquing anybody's interest. This is where the feed comes from, the very trusted source for exchange rates. And it is a fully historical exchange rate table. I can change my exchange rate date here back to 2006, 20 years ago today. System knows what the exchange rate was at that point in time. So super easy for that. And also, I know in some other systems, if you do have multi-currency transactions and Consulting Grid sometimes sent you an invoice in Canadian dollars, and then sometimes they sent you an invoice in US dollars or GBP or South African Rand, you would actually need separate vendors for all those different currencies. In Intacct, you don't. I can put a transaction in from Consulting Grid in Canadian dollars. I could come back 30 seconds later and put one in any currency that I have listed here. Hong Kong dollar. I can do whatever I like to the same vendor. So you don't need to duplicate vendors or customers throughout the system. So really great for multi-entity, multi-currency. On top of all of that, at any point in time, I can create a set of consolidation books to consolidate the financials for any number of these companies that I select into whatever currency in the world that I like. And Intacct will do the auto elimination of your interco accounts. It will calculate like FX gain or losses, and it will just give you your financial statements super fast. So I could take just Australia and say, I need to see my Australian company converted to Canadian dollars. Or I could take Australia, Canada, South Africa, US, and consolidate them into the Hong Kong dollar. It doesn't matter. All the currencies are available in here for you to convert your transactions into your statements into whatever currency you need. And there is no limit on the amount of different consolidations that you are allowed to set up. So in my system right now, I only have 3 sets of books set up, but I could have 300 sets of books set up in here if I wanted to. I don't think I have enough entities for 300. I might have enough combos. No, I don't think so. But I could if I wanted to add a whole pile more entities. I can have as many set of consolidation books in here as I like. Then all you have to do is run your consolidations. So we come to the run consolidation and we see the different books and we say to consolidate. We go about our way, and then your consolidated statements are just ready for you pretty much in real time. No exporting to Excel, no manually putting in exchange rates, no mapping of accounts from multiple companies. You simply build the structure of your consolidated financial statements, you build your books, you run your consolidations, and then your consolidated financials are ready for you whenever you want them. So here we have a consolidated balance sheet in US dollars for my global set of books. We do see all of our companies listed from left to right if you want to see them individually. You don't have to see it like that. I could collapse all of this into one column if I wanted to. I then see a consolidated P&L for those global set of books, again in US dollars. If I scroll down, I will see a consolidated P&L for my non-US books in GBP and my North American books in USD, and then a consolidated balance sheet for both of those sets of books respectively as well. So a great consolidations module here and multi-currency, multi-entity management, just really strong stuff. Moving away from that topic, we will jump into the purchasing module. So the purchasing module is simply put a stronger accounts payable module. If you don't need the functionality you see me show here today, don't worry. You don't have to use the purchasing module. You can use the AP module, and it does have approvals and vendor approvals and AP bill approvals and payment approvals. We can generate ACH or EFT files or bank files in the UK, handle 1099s if you're in the US. A really strong AP module. The reason we demo the purchasing module over the AP module is generally once a potential client has outgrown whatever system they're currently using and coming to Intacct, one thing that I think like 99% of customers are looking for is a way to control their procurement process in-house in the system. Nah, get rid of that paper trail, get rid of the email approvals, get rid of is that buried on Frank's desk, you know, bring it in the solution, create the matching between your documents, the three-way match, the four-way match, whatever you want to call it, between like your requisition, your order, your invoice, your payment. It's all here, and we can handle approvals in the system as well. So what you're seeing on my screen right now is a generic workflow. Purchase requisition to a purchase order, to a receipt of shipment, to a vendor invoice. You do not have to use all the steps of this workflow, right? Like if you don't want purchase requisitions, it's very common across my clients. They say, we don't care about purchase requisitions because we're going to put in purchase order to start. The purchase order is going to go for approval. And that step of the PO going for approval is kind of acting as the requisition, right? But if you do want to use purchase requisitions, you certainly can. You just get the full workflow. You can have multiple different versions of each type of document. So I have three different types of purchase requisitions. I have a standard purchase requisition, I have something we call a quote, and I have something we call the travel authorization. And we've got five different types of POs, and we've got two different types of receipt documents, and then we've got four different types of invoices. There are a couple of reasons to have multiple different document types under each like header. First of all, is if you have any inventory, right? You probably want an inventory workflow and a non-inventory workflow. So we have to tell the system, a purchase order for inventory. When that gets processed, we want that to record on our item that we have inventory on order. But if it's a non-inventory item, then we don't need that. So we have to have just a regular PO. The other reason, and this is probably the more common reason, is because each document here, so my three purchase requisitions, my five purchase orders, my two receipts, and my four invoices. It's 14 different documents. I could have a different approval workflow set up on all 14 different documents. So I could have 14 different approval workflows if I wanted to. That would be crazy, and I would not be happy with the client at that point in time. But we would do it, and you can do it, but I think it's overkill, and I don't expect I'll ever run into it. So as an example here, like maybe the standard purchase requisition follows one approval route for approval. Like maybe first it goes to like a department manager and then a project manager, and then based off the value, it has to go to a higher up. But a travel authorization, instead of going to a department manager and a project manager, that's going to go to the employees manager of the person who enters it, right? So that is fully doable inside of Intacct, and I'll kind of show you how. So if I go to my purchasing configuration screen, someone once told me don't ever show configuration screens on demos, but it's just too much value in Intacct. So here we are. I'll come to my approval policies, and you'll see here that I can set up different approval policies. So if I look at the approval policy for my purchase requisition, it says transaction department approval, transaction project manager approval, and then user level, which means it's going to go directly to a user that we put here, which is Emma. So if I come out of that module and let me make sure I'm not the admin approver because that is one thing that I do. Look at that. I am the admin approver. I'm going to save that before I show you what I want to show you. And I am going to go back into that screen so we can easily see it. I think I can get there. I think I can get there. Yeah, I can get there through here. And we'll look at this again. We'll bring this up. Purchase requisition, department, project manager, user level. So when I'm keying this transaction, I don't have to worry about knowing who my managers are, who's managing what project, what department. We let the system do that work. So if I come in and I pick a vendor and I come down and I pick an item, I don't really care which item I pick. I'll go ahead and pick software and licenses again. I'm going to choose my services department and I'm going to choose my CPQ implementation project. Now, looking at the approval workflow we just saw, department manager approval, project manager approval. On each different department and project, there can be a manager listed. So the manager of Department 200 is Ryan. The manager of the CPQ implementation project is, hopefully it's not also Ryan. It is Mike. So when I enter this into the system, say I put it in for $5,600, and I need to make sure it's not marked as billable. It isn't. It's perfect. When I submit this for approval, it should go to Ryan, then it should go to Mark for approval, right? So if I go ahead and click on my state of submitted, I can ensure that happened correctly. As we're going to see the audit trail for the approval, we scroll down, we can say, look, first it's going to Ryan, then it's going to Mike, and then it's going to go to Emma for approval. So we know it's following the proper workflow. And that's kind of how we set them up if you need multiple, right? So if we look at the vendor invoice, this will likely be much different. This is just a value approval, progressive. So all this means is if this transaction gets entered and it's under 24,999, it requires level one approval. If it's between 25 and 50, it requires level two, and so on. Now, we have value approval progressive, which is turned on here, and we have value approval direct. The only difference between those two are in the progressive, if I put in a transaction for $75,000, it has to go through level one, then through level two, then through level three. But if we're doing value approval direct, it would skip level one, skip level two, go right to level three. You can also tell the system how many approvers at that level it needs. So maybe it's like one here, one here. We get up this high, we want two, and we want two at this level as well. So again, just some added flexibility in there. And your approval workflows can be multi-step. I think it's up to 6 different steps, maybe more. And you can really pick and choose how it happens. So the transaction department manager, then the project manager, then a user level. I could add another layer to this to be value approval progressive. Say after value approval progressive, we're going to send it to another different user that's going to be Mubin. I mean, you can just keep building on here and you can reorganize it at any time you like as long as you have the proper permissions. It's just really easy to manage for an approval policy, and it's really quite flexible. We can generally make it work for all of our clients. Very rarely have I come across a client where it wouldn't work for them. Now, on top of that approval workflow and all the different ways you can set up approvals, you are going to get like a full three-way, four-way match between your documents. So I'm looking at my purchase requisitions here right now. If we've gotten the approval and we want to create a PO for this requisition, I don't have to like look up the information on my requisition. I can just click convert, say convert it to a purchase order, and that is going to copy everything off my requisition onto my order. And then I can make any changes that I want to or need to. We can handle partial conversions. We can convert by price instead of by quantity. There's a lot more functionality than I really have time to show in here fully. But what that convert does is it creates a link between all of your different documents in that workflow. So if we look at a transaction that is stated as being converted already, we can see what type of workflow this followed. So my purchase requisition was entered, and then my purchase requisition was converted into a purchase order. That's as far as it's gone. It hasn't gone any further. If I go look up this PO, I will be able to see that it's not yet fulfilled. It actually got declined, so it actually can't get fulfilled. So that's as far as this got in our workflow. If a transaction has gone through the entire workflow, you would see that three-way match across the entire any document in that flow. So you see here, this one here started as a purchase requisition. That purchase requisition was converted into a purchase order, and that purchase order was converted into a vendor invoice. If I go to my vendor invoice, I can see that flow. I can see that flow from my PO as well. So if I look at the history of my invoice, you see I still see this three-way match on any stage of the document. And also, I can see that this transaction is not paid. So we see this payment status is open, the bill amount is 232, the amount due is still 232. If this were paid, there would be a nice paid status here and maybe a paid stamp. You can turn that on or off. So a really strong purchasing module here as well. Before I open up the floor for questions, what I will say is I don't want anybody to walk away from this demo saying, "Oh, I saw Olive Intact today, and it looks pretty good. It was pretty quick." I don't even like to say we've scratched the surface of Intact today. We've glossed the surface of Intact. The functionalities that I did show you, I showed you like the bare bones because an hour is just not enough time. I could demo the purchasing module for an hour alone. There's that more functionality available in just that module alone. So on top of the modules that you did see, there's more functionality in those modules. Financial reporting, way more in there, way more in purchasing. Could have jumped into AP, could have showed you some AR, but AR and AP, they're so similar. There's modules that I didn't even get to speak about, like the contracts module, like the fixed asset management module, like the project costing and billing module. There's a revenue recognition module where you can set up your RevRec categories and templates. When you're coding your invoice, you say this is going to deferred revenue. System sticks it in deferred revenue. It then automatically recognizes the revenue over time based off the template that you've added to it. There's a budgeting module where we can do actuals versus budgets and, budget variances and so on. If you're looking for like more of an FP&A tool to do like forecasting and what if scenarios, there is an add-on available to the budgeting module, but it's just not in our demo environment. There is an employee time and expense module. There's a prepaid expense amortization module. The cash management module is here where we can do bank recs in the system and maintain your reconciliation histories and all that great stuff. Just a wide array of other things that we could have really shown on this demo. So just please keep in mind that this is a very quick demo of Intacct. Any scheduled demo, like one-on-one client demo that I do is no shorter than 2 hours. And even then, we oftentimes struggle to clue up on time because there are just so many different rabbit holes we could find our way down. So with that, I will thank you all for coming out and listening to me quickly ramble for an hour. I'm sure it was a lot of information overload, and understanding how fast I speak with my Newfoundland accent was probably a bit of fun as well. But we'll open up the floor for questions, and I genuinely appreciate your attention and coming out today.
Yeah, there was two questions here, Matthew. One of them a little earlier was, we have 10 legal entities. How does Intact manage this as reporting and analytics on a consolidated level? I think you touched on it briefly before about consolidating those entities. So I think that
Yeah,
question
well,
was
kind of. So if you're talking pure consolidations, like where you actually want elimination entries, with the 10 legal entities, they would all have their own individual financial statements. And then if you wanted them at a consolidated level, yes, you can build on the consolidation module and have the inter-entity eliminations happen, intercompany transactions automatically happen. So yeah, it can manage it whichever way you need, basically.
Yeah, the second question was how can Intact reduce or eliminate manual entry? OCR for vendor invoices, AI agent reconciling book to bank.
Yeah. So there is AP automation, OCR capabilities for either the AP module or the purchasing module. When it comes to like your bank rec, it's a little bit of AI, but a little bit not of AI. First of all, there are matching rules. So you can set up what are called matching rules for your bank recs, which are like if I have a transaction posted to my bank account on my books for $1,234, and when my bank statement comes in, there's a transaction there for $1,234, automatically match those two transactions off against one another so that when I go in to do my bank rec, I don't have to manually reconcile those items. There are also creation rules where you can tell the system that if there are constant transactions that come in month over month, like your bank fees, that automatically post a journal entry for my bank fees. There's also a way to set it up so that as incoming payments come into your bank account, the system can see that on your statement, and then it can look up certain customers, a group of customers, and see if any of those customers have that invoice outstanding in that amount and record the payment for you in Intacct. So there are little things that we can do there to eliminate, some manual entry. The other things are just kind of like native functionality. Like I know a lot of systems, if you enter an AP bill into the system, an AP transaction, once that's posted, you can't go back and change the GL account or the dimensions it was tagged to. You're forced to do a journal entry. Not the case in Intacct. So some added flexibility in Intacct stops some of these manual journal entries that you have to do, and also like navigation. So from the bank rec, for as an example, if I were on my bank rec and my bank fees came in, I know in a lot of systems I would have to exit my bank rec. I would have to go do my journal entry. Where in Intacct, if for some reason someone deposited a $22,000 of interest for us, I wouldn't have to leave my bank rec to do this. I could click on action right here, and I could click on, this is a journal entry that I want to record, and the system will autofill the debit side of my transaction to the GL account and like the date and the description because it knows it's incoming money into this bank account. And then all I have to do is tag the revenue or something. Maybe it's interest income. And then when I post that transaction, that will automatically get matched on my bank rec. You see, and it zap away from my screen. So like there are some things like OCR capabilities and some AI stuff and machine learning stuff that's available, but then also just like how conveniently Intacct has been built really helps reduce a lot of manual journal entries that you might currently be doing.
If you would like to set up a custom demo to see some other functionalities as well, you can reach out to us and we can set that up for you. Thank you so much for joining us and look forward to hearing back from you soon. Thanks so much, Matthew.